All right. So actually, one thing I wanted to mention is I think we've got a couple of our folks from Poland out today. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, I'm not sure we'll get to, but having said that, let's get through PRs here. So I saw I didn't make it entirely through PRs this week, but I did see two new PRs over the last 2 weeks that I wanted to mention. One is in common using a thread local pointer variable to save the shard. This is 44479. So I don't think there's been any review on that yet. But oh no, Ronan just got in there. Ronan, any comments? I see this is real fresh.
Yeah, but just nitpicking it, not the real issue. I still didn't look at what the change does actually, just the technicalities.
Okay, cool. So yeah, if anyone wants to review that one, that's there. Also, let's see, there is a doc change for rewriting the hardware docs. That's 44466. Dan approved that. I made a request for a change in there. The only thing that I was nitpicking a little bit is that it mentions needing 2 cores for heavy RBD workloads, and I think we should maybe be a little bit more nuanced than that. If you're on NVMe drives, you'll almost certainly be core limited with 2 cores on an OSD. So it might just be a good idea to let people know that that they have the potential for more performance when on fast flash drives if they give the OSD more cores. Let's see. Closed 2 PRs this week that I saw. First is Igor's PR for cleaning up, basically further cleaning up the pinning in the onode code for pinned entries that got merged by Yuri. That's a really good PR. I think Adam was very pleased with it, and from what I looked at it, it looked like a good cleanup. So that's good. This PR from last summer for optimizing the object's memory allocation using pools. There was some feedback on that, Ronan. I think that you left feedback on that. Adam may have as well. It looks like for now the author closed that PR just based on the feedback that he was getting. It had been marked "Do not merge." I'm actually hoping that we'll see further work from the author because this is a really interesting area. But yeah, maybe the approach that was being taken wasn't quite right. Ronan, was I right? Where you had looked at that, I think, right?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, I think that's a good description. I don't like the approach, but I think we ought to handle this issue totally. It will have a major impact on performance, I think.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving on. Updated this week. The manager time to live cache implementation has gotten some new updates. I think that's just chugging along, so hopefully we'll see a final implementation there. Josh's primary balancer work. Laura, I think you've been doing a lot of reviews on that. Anything new to discuss?
Nothing major. We are going, or he's going to squash some commits to make it more cohesive, and then we're going to run it through tautology. So that's the major updates on that.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Let's see. Igor's PR to make the shared blob FSDK much less RAM greedy. Adam has been doing a lot of reviews on that. The update or the comment that I made on that PR is that if we are going to try to use the OSD memory target as a method for controlling the amount of memory we use for that process. I think that we should consider then adding that as a priority cache target to compete with other consumers of memory. We could do that at priority 0, which basically means that it's only competing with things that also demand memory very aggressively. But I think that might be the way to go. So anyway, we'll see what Igor thinks about that. But that's the kind of feeling I've got on this right now. Okay, and then next is BlueFS fine grain locking. This is Adam's big PR. I think, if I remember right, Igor had some updated reviews on that. I'm just going to check quick to make sure that I didn't categorize this one. Oh, no, Neha responded in that most recently. There was apparently a segmentation fault. So, okay, I have to update that one, but it looks like maybe there is still some locking issues in that PR, possibly. Okay, and then speaking of locking issues, my PR for cache age binning that has been sitting around for, I think, like 2 years at this point. So the version of it from November, I think, was segfaulting, but it was due to locking issues. I had two separate locking issues, one of which I think was what was causing the testing failure, and another that was more subtle that maybe wasn't. The first of which was just a really stupid access to the age binning data structure that was not protected. So that was an easy fix. And then the more subtle one was that there was basically a remodify write that would have potentially allowed for a change in between locks, and that was completely unnecessary. The read wasn't needed. We could just do a straight lock and write. So that I fixed that, and since fixing those two issues, that PR now appears to be passing both make check and the bigger test that Yuri ran. So potentially, if we want to, we can try to get that in for Quincy, I think. And that is what I saw for updated PRs this week. There were some I didn't look at here. I ran out of time this morning, but otherwise, that was it. Anything I missed from anyone?
There's one PR, Mark, that can use your review. I think it's just an enhancement to the Rails benchmark from Igor.
Oh, okay, sure.
And I think it's just one of those nice to have ones. I pasted it in the chat.
Yeah, if it's small, we could probably get that in for Quincy. It'd be
yeah,
nice.
It's essentially small, but yeah, it'd be nice if you could just review it once.
Oh, this is for enhancements to the OMAP section part of it. Okay, that's
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty simple. We should be able to get this in. I'll review it.
Awesome.
Cool. Speaking actually of that whole topic, Neha, there's my PR for the OMAP bench in the Google Test Suite, which I keep thinking about it in the back of my head, and to really make that useful as an independent benchmark, we'd either have to make executable that works kind of like gtest, right? Where it kind of creates a mock OSD backend and runs tests against it, kind of like gtest does, or we rewrite that as like a tool that goes through a pre-existing OSD and tries to do something really similar, but it wouldn't be able to work the same way as my code in the G-Test suite does. And I've been kind of putting off the decision on what to do with it, but maybe this is a good time to talk about it.
I remember this came up when we were freezing Pacific last year, and I
Yeah,
talked to you about this, and it was sat in the back burner. But I mean, like, being able to run on a pre-existing OSD is something that would be ideal, right?
exactly. And then to do that, we'd have to rewrite it to not work the way it does now.
I know that's what we concluded a year ago.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's been sitting there for like a year and nothing has changed.
Yep, yep. But yeah, that's where my vote would be.
Okay. Is the existing approach of creating an OSD or something that vaguely looks like an OSD and testing against it, is that still valid or useful?
Probably, but I mean, like, the benchmark in general would be really useful in a scenario where we want to, like, we have issues and we want to just run this on an existing cluster and get some numbers out of it. So having to create an OSD in that scenario, I'm not sure it's going to be that useful, but in other cases, it might just be useful, right?
Yeah, I think if I remember right, the entire reason we just haven't merged this is because these
It was
tests add
too much
considerable
time. Yep,
time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also G-test doesn't give us the ability to like pass parameters in easily.
yep, something like that.
Yeah. I feel like I need Adam and Igor involved in this conversation because I think Adam had the idea that we should do this through FIO. We should add the ability to test OMAP through FIO, and then we can try to generalize it for an OSD or for like the object store backend.
Yeah, maybe we can just put it on I don't see either of them today. Maybe we can put this on the agenda for like one of the next meetings when they're both here.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, we have a lot of things like that.
Yep.
All right. Any other PRs from anyone they'd like to bring up or discuss? Casey, I'm going to pick on you a little bit. How is the RGW work going with some of the performance PRs we talked about before? I think one of them you mentioned maybe was getting in for Quincy.
Hey, Mark. I don't remember which one you're talking about. We did have
The
the Beast front end stuff did merge. That was a big one.
Oh, good, it merged. Okay, great. Yeah, I think that was what I was thinking of. The issue with I think it was, oh shoot, now I'm forgetting.
It was the CPU usage related to the timeouts.
Yes, that was it.
Right. And I know that you had a couple of PRs around the caching system, I think, that we haven't revisited yet, unfortunately.
Okay, those weren't huge gains though. I mean, there were gains, but not like the CPU stuff with Beast. So, that's not a big deal. So with the Beast front end changes, did the PR that merged, does that resolve it fully, or was it an improvement? I don't remember.
Good question. When Mark Kogan was doing the measurements, he was just comparing the regressed version with the fixed version. I don't think he was doing comparisons with before timeouts.
Okay. I seem to recall that we maybe didn't completely solve the regression, but we maybe got it much better than it was previously after the change was made.
Yeah, I remember that you identified a separate issue, which was the allocation of coroutine stacks. We made a change that used mmap and mprotect for those, and we haven't changed that. But I think that was much less significant than the timeout issue.
That was my recollection as well. Okay. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like now compared to previously, in both before and after the changes were made. I'll add that to my mental list of things to think about here. All right. Anything else from anyone? If not, go ahead.
I just said nothing here.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. So the only discussion topic that I really had for today is that I was hoping if Igor or Adam were here, we could talk about Igor's PR for FSCK and reducing the memory usage. There was some discussion in that PR about trying to make the OSD fit within the OSD memory target during FSCK. And if we do that, I wanted to talk about utilizing the existing code in the priority cache framework to control the memory usage, or at least inform the memory usage of the FSCK process. But without Igor or Adam, I'm not sure it's worth even talking about that. So that's maybe we should just shelve it for a future meeting. Other than that, I didn't really have anything. Maybe one thing since Gabby, you're here, I did want to ask you, how is your work on the fixes for the allocation changes going?
I got 3 fixes under work. One of them is completed. It's dealing with the expand. There was a problem with the expand code, which I didn't handle correctly. Now it's working fine, and there's a test case for this, which was submitted. Another thing I'm working is replacing the bitmap allocator I was using while working the allocation. I was just every time I would find an allocated area, I would mark it in the bitmap allocator, and if shared blobs were found, the same space was marked multiple times, which is not a problem from my point of view, but the bitmap allocator eventually would assert when running out of space, because there's a counter which was aggregating all the space. Even so, it was the same bit. It was just complaining that we allocated more space than it have. It's a corner case, but it could happen in some scenarios. It could be extremely easy to recreate. So I'm replacing this with my own bitmap. And then there is the code for the Ceph fast shutdown, which I'm working on. It's mostly done. I'm just testing, and every time something is popping, I'm just trying to fix it. So that's how we got to the other 2 issues.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, Gabby, I think your work on the allocator is probably going to shape up to be the biggest win in Quincy that we see. So I suspect we will be highlighting it. So I wanted to just check up on how it's going with some of those fixes. But yeah, I think you're going to be the highlight on the performance side.
Okay.
What else? I think that's pretty much it. At some point, I did want to. I don't think before break we got to really talk about the OD sync write pipeline. With there was some evidence in some tests that on different platforms we're seeing the journal write behavior. Sorry, the write ahead log write behavior being the big limiter on small write performance. And there's some question about whether or not we can do a better job of increasing the the aggregation of writes in the wall to better kind of utilize the behavior of underlying devices. I think that we also want Adam and Igor for those conversations. So I guess other than that, that's it. Oh, actually, one other thing, Ronan, you mentioned that TC Malk discussion at CPPCon, right?
Yes. I can't say that I invested a lot of time in understanding just the tricks.
Do you think that would be a good presentation to discuss at one of these meetings?
Not sure I know the basics of TC Malloc to start talking about it. There are people more qualified than me to talk about TC Malloc.
So I confess I haven't watched the presentation yet, but maybe it'd be something that if folks think is worthwhile. I mean, it does have a direct relevance for what we do.
Let me watch it again and I'll see if I can get something out of it that I can share.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Anything else, guys? All right. Well then, thank you for coming, everyone, and have a great week. I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
Well.
Bye.